Today I'm gonna edit this photo, and not only this one, because this is an HDR photo and I took 3 photos, this one, and this one. I took this photo in Croatia, in CITYSCAPE, very small city, but very nice, especially if you love old towns and you like to take photos there. Basically every street is worth to take another photo. And well, what caught my eye here is of course, well, the old walls and the stones here, but then here in the end the light is exactly in the right place, and I think that's a nice thing about this photo. So I'm gonna merge those 3 files. Of course there are several ways to do that. We can do it in Lightroom, we can do it in Photomatic, but today I'm gonna use the new Aurora HDR 2018. Powerful HDR tool, maybe the best one out there, and I really like the presets that are already included because it gives you a very good starting point. So I'm gonna bring them to Aurora HDR. So this one, not this one. And the good thing is, usually before it was, and I will open it. Well, I'm just struggling with my second screen because Aurora is there now, but now it's here. So now you can see it also. Before Aurora HDR was only available for Mac, but now it's also for Windows. So if you have, if you're a Windows user, you can also use this HDR software. So what I'm going to do here, I turn on alignment because I shot this HDR manually, so maybe there's a slight movements between the photos. Further, I do ghost reduction. I don't think it's needed for this because there are no moving objects. Maybe the leaves of the plant a little bit move, but it's not a big issue. But still, I turn it on because if there's no movement and if there are no ghosts, it doesn't do anything. Color denoise is turn on, and also the chromatic aberration removal. So I turn on everything basically. Then I create the HDR. That takes a while. I have to say it's much faster than the 2017 version, so that's already a good thing. And as I said before, what I really like are the presets you can find in Aurora HDR, because sometimes you're in an HDR tool and the photos are merged and yeah, you really don't know what to do. And of course there are all those sliders and you just try something, but it's way easier when you can start with an effect you like and tweak it from there. So the time it takes to merge those files together, it of course depends on the file size. So I use a Fujifilm camera. They're not the largest files, but also not the smallest. So it takes, I think, about 1 minute to merge them together. So the idea I have with those with this photo, after it's merged, I really want to show all the details in the wall, the old walls, and in the pavement. That's what I really like about those old towns. And if you are going to Croatia, I really recommend you to visit this city. It's not big. In about 1 hour you've seen basically everything, but it's really recommendable. Also like the split towns of Split and Dubrovnik, but the good thing about CITYSCAPE is it's not so touristic. Alright, we are here, and what do I mean by presets? Well, basically what you see here. So we can click realistic and balanced, and it's gonna process, and you have the effect with all those settings here already on the right side. You can do new emotions and you get something else. Realistic and detailed, well, you basically, I think you get the idea. There are different categories of presets. So now I'm in the realistic HDR category, my favorite one, because although I use HDR a lot. I prefer to go for the realistic results, sometimes a little bit more, but in general I prefer the realistic HDRs. But there are also presets for landscape, indoor, architecture, dramatic, and also Captain Chemo and Serge Ramilly. They created presets for this HDR software, so there are already a lot of presets you can use. For this tutorial, stay in the realistic part because I like them best. Let's check what this is doing. The sharp and crisp. I prefer this one better because there is more contrast, but I don't like it too much. This neutral. I think I like this one most, but I want to add some extra contrast, and that's a good thing because it happens rarely that you select a preset and you're done, because it can happen of course, but presets are to me they are just a starting point. So I like the overall result, but I want to have some extra contrast. I can do that by using this contrast slider or the whites and the blacks. Let's try the contrast. Well, not too much, about 20, I think that's nice. And I want to see a little bit more blacks because that also adds some extra contrast, of course, because the blacks or the darkest parts in the photo even get darker. Okay, I like the overall result already. The lighting is okay like this, and let's see what we can do with the colors. What extra saturation is gonna do. It's not a bad result, but not too much. A little bit. Vibrance is already in 17 because of the preset. This is what I don't like. You see, if you go too far, of course you already have the warm tones, but here it gets a lot of blue, and also here it's too much and it looks really fake also to me, so I prefer to keep their original colors. The structure, that's always nice to work with. The HDR structure is 0 now, but the microstructure is in 15. Well, if you crank it up, well, you can clearly see the difference, that there are a lot of small details pop up, and that's what I really like about Aurora HDR. You have a lot of control about well, the structure and the sharpness, and especially for a photo like this, I think it's a very nice feature. So I add a lot of microstructure. Let's see what this is doing. So as you can see, if you use the HDR structure, then the structure of the whole photo basically goes up. Can work out, but not for this photo. So for this photo I basically only want to get some structure in the most detailed parts, so like in between the stones. I think that really works well for this photo. What else? Well, I think this is basically it. What I want to do here in Aurora HDR. There are many more things you can do, of course, in this tool, but this is what I want to do for this photo. Later in other tutorials, I will show you a little bit more about the functionality you have, because as you can see, all basically you can do everything here. So all sliders you have in Lightroom are basically here also. So, and because of that, Aurora HDR is also a very good standalone tool, so you don't have to use it necessarily as a plugin. But so far I prefer to do the HDR things in Aurora HDR and then finish the photo in Lightroom. So I'm gonna apply everything and we'll go back to Lightroom. And to be honest, I don't want to do that much more in this photo. I only want to add a vignette, and maybe I want to make some local adjustments with the brush. And also this takes a while, of course, because a merged HDR file can get quite big. So let's see where it is now. It's not here, so that should be in the end. Yep, there it is. Alright, so as said before, I want to use the vignette, so I go to Efex. This is very nice, of course, and because there's a really center part and it's not that big, you can adjust the midpoint even further to the center to get a lot of attention in this part. And I prefer to use the feather all the time. By default it's in 50, but I always go between 50 and 100, so it depends on the photo, and this one doesn't have to go to 100 because on the sides there are not many interesting things to see, but at least to 70. So now the whole photo is kind of dark, maybe only the center part where it's all about, but we can change that, and I want to draw the eye into the photo, and we can do that by adding some light. So what we can do is we can make this a little bit brighter here. That's not a good thing, I will remove it. Don't hit the dot because then you move it. I think we can even make it more brighter like this, because then you really get kind of light that goes through the door, and it's all about the door, of course. And if you want, you can make the light even more interesting, more complex by adding some light in the wall. You can do that with the brush as well, but also the Radial Filter is a very nice option to use. So what we can do is, if you want to get some attention in this part, duplicate it and make the wall a little bit brighter, and just by randomly adding those radial filters, light gets more complex. People looking at the photo won't notice it. Well, maybe they notice there's something, but they cannot say what the reason is for that. Maybe it's also nice to get this part a little bit more, especially this window because it was very dark, and I want to add an extra brush here. So basically this part is brighter now than this, but that's okay, that's what I like. Alright, well, I get some highlights over there, so I want to reduce them by, that's good enough. Alright, well, this is the end. This is the result. You can add sharpening if needed, and I have to tell, since I'm using my Fujifilm camera, I don't use sharpening that much anymore, at least not the same amounts as I used to do for my Nikon camera. And sometimes you find in tutorials that for a photo like this with a lot of details, sharpening around 80 is good, but I can tell you it really depends on the camera you use. So there are no rules to follow, because it really depends on the camera. Because what I found out for my camera, if I add too much sharpening, and I will try to find a place where it might be visible, I have to go even further. Well, let's crank it up to 150. Well, it's not the case in this photo, that's interesting. But for Fuji photos, if you add too much sharpening, it really, the pixels change into kind of brush strokes, and then it more looks like a painting if you look in a photo very zoomed in 100 or 200%. For this photo it's not that bad, actually it can use quite a lot, but for my camera, for my Fuji camera, I usually stay between 40 and 60, always combined with the mask. and of course there's a lot of detail here, so in the end many parts will be sharpened, but a value between 40 and 60 works fine for my Fuji files. And when I was using my Nikon camera, Nikon D800, I always was around 80, sometimes even 90. That gave a good result. But in general, the lenses of Fujifilm are a little bit sharper, so that also means we have to add less sharpening. Alright, well, this is basically what I wanted to show you. You already also got some a small preview of what Aurora HDR can do. And if you really like Aurora HDR, below this video you will find a link, and if you use that link combined with the discount code also shown below this video, you can get a discount if you want to buy Aurora HDR. So hopefully you learned something new in this video. If you like this tutorial, please leave a comment, let me know if you like it. Also let me know what you would like to see in next videos, because I really want to make everything you want to learn. So soon you'll find a new video, and see you then.